John Hewitt has taken over, and he is the president and CEO of Matrix. And John has, as part of his background, engineering, procurement, and construction. He actually has a BS in finance. And then evidently the force must have came with him because he came over and got one in engineering as well. And as he was bringing those things together, one of the strengths that I've admired about John is he's wanting to make his company even better. And one of the things he decided to do, which many of our companies do, they said we're going to have a leadership retreat and we're going to go and we're going to discuss how we're going to make our company better. One of the unique things that I really admired about John is he says, wait a minute, we're in the construction business. Why don't we tie that to attending the CII conference? And so I'm going to let him share how they tie those two things together. Now, as you heard, Craig now is the #1 employee in his company, meaning Diane's the CEO, obviously. And I think he's also the #1 fan of Diane, so I'll put that plug in. And of the same way, John is one of the side notes that people don't know about John is he loves Tulsa. He is serving on a number of boards there, inclusive of the Chamber of Commerce, the Visit Tulsa, and so I'm sure somewhere in there we'll hear a little weave of how wonderful Tulsa is. Both John and his wife Dee Dee are very involved in their community activities, and I'm sure he'll share that with us. And with that, I'm going to introduce John Hewitt. Good job.
Thanks, Mike, for the kind introductions. I'm glad there's a big green arrow on here so I know how to use this. I was sitting here worried about watching Craig push this button. And Craig, thank you for your service to our industry. And we share with you the passion that you obviously have for safety. And we're with you on the culture part. That's the part in our organization that we're trying to drive. So Mike asked me to talk to you a little bit about what we're doing as relates to improving our business as an organization. And so to do that, I want to give you a kind of frame a little bit my perspective. So in about the mid-90s, and actually the real date escapes me, but you know, probably like many of you here, my boss came to me for the company I was working for at that time and said, you need to go get involved with this CII thing. We had recently been taken over by a much bigger company, and it was a big thing for them. And they were actually out of the vestiges of John Brown, who I think was one of the founding members of CII. And so I went, you know, I did what my boss told me, begrudgingly. And but through the time I've spent with CII, I was able to really see the value of what this organization can provide to the construction industry, and how important it is for the employees of all the member companies to be involved. But the one thing I always sort of was a dichotomy for me was the first thing that an organization cut when our markets got bad and we're all in a pretty cyclical business is who they send and their involvement with this organization. So it always struck me as, well, we're trying to get better, we're trying to get more efficient, we're trying to improve our safety performance, but it's really not that important. So, but it's good to have on our resume when we go to a client and say, well, we're members of the CII. And it's to some extent, that's sort of how it felt. So just real quick about us. Matrix Service Company, we're a E&C contractor. We work across energy, power, and industrial markets. About $1.4 billion in revenues in our fiscal 15. 43rd on Engineering News Records, top 400 contractors. And recently, over the last 3 years, twice have been named as the Forbes 100 most trustworthy company. So we've got multiple brands that we operate under. Our parent company, which is Green Brand, which is traded on NASDAQ. Our operating units, we've got a union business, which is a red brand, Matrix North American Construction. A Merit Shop brand, which is a Matrix Service, our engineering group there in orange, and then our Applied Technologies group, which provides products for storage tanks. So Matrix is maybe not a high-tech success story, but it's certainly one of our industry success stories. Started in the mid-'80s by 5 guys in a garage in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Did a couple $1 million a year, was essentially a regional business, had 15 employees, and just did above-ground storage tank maintenance and repair work. Not real complex business. Today, we employ close to 6,000 people. Have 44 offices, have acquired 16 businesses, revenue, as I said, reaching to $1.5 billion, have offices all over the US and Canada where we operate, and as of late have operations in Australia and South Korea. So our business is growing, our business is getting more complex, and we've added a lot of people. And so you're back a little bit on what Craig said is, our people will drive our culture. Our culture fundamentally is our values. So, our employees are out making decisions for our company every day, and how they think, what their culture is very, very important. So some of our core values, the commitment to safety, integrity, positive relationships, stewardship, community involvement, and delivering the best. And so when we look at that, is how can CII help us drive our values and drive our culture? Certainly on the commitment to safety. It's one of the things that we hold most dear to us as an organization. Again, trying to drive the culture side of that. Our recent performance, which is not updated on this chart, is a recordable incident rate of 0.55. We want to be at 0. Big chunks of our business are operating after millions of man hours at 0. And, but again, like many of you in the room, that's just not good enough. And then the other thing is to deliver the best. So we have high expectations for ourselves. Our tagline is rise to a higher standard. And we see CII as an opportunity for us to do that. We've grown considerably over the past 5 years, over double the size of the business, and our plans are to continue to grow that business. But our processes, our procedures, our best practices, all those things we have to continue to improve. Mr. Bechtel said it this morning. He said that they've paid the dues for their processes and procedures, and we're paying our dues now. But I'd like to be able to take the investment that the Bechtels, the Floors, the Jacobs, and everybody else has made on the dues they've paid, so we don't have to pay them again. So being able to use those best practices that the CII pulls together allow us to get better. And our market and our projects are getting more complex. Back in 1984, a big job was $50,000. Today, a big job for us is in excess of $400 million. Can you still hear me? So why did we join CII? So as we said, our core values are delivering the best. It demands a continuous process improvement environment within our organization. We have to, on an ongoing way, develop our employees. And an implementation of best practices is key for us to improve in all of our processes and procedures. So CII's core processes are knowledge creation, dissemination, asset management. They all provide the right tools for our organization. Is this thing on? We good now? You hear me? I gotta stand over here. So one of the things we knew for sure was implementation of the knowledge gained through the CII was going to be the toughest part, right? We couldn't expect to send a couple employees to this conference and have them come back and drive those changes into our organization. And getting value out of CII wasn't about the employees we sent to the conference. It was about our executives and leadership team finding the value in CII and having them lead the organization to those best practices and that continuous improvement. And then driving active participation and engagement was going to take time. It wasn't going to happen overnight. But without executive buy-in and a plan to integrate CII into our company's business process, essentially would be wasted money. So what do we do? So every quarter we have operational management meetings as an organization somewhere around the United States. And we said, you know what, we're going to, for the meetings that we do in this time of the year, coincides with CII's annual conference. So we started holding those operating meetings here. And what that meant was we brought in excess of 20 to 30 people to this conference. So in addition to bringing our executive leadership team, we also included their spouses, significant others, so there could be more of a team building event for our senior management to get to know each other and to get to know each other's families. So when we started that process in 2014, I think there was some pushback within the organization of, you know, is this worth the money? But I think over the last 3 years, we've gotten a lot of positive feedback, and we've got very active engagement today throughout our leadership chain in the organization. We also formed an internal CII steering committee with representations from all the brands that I showed you before, and there's a leadership rotation on that steering committee. We actively encourage participation on the research and in the standing committees through all of our employees. And since 2012, we have sent at least one of our high potential employees to the CII Executive Leadership Program. And each of them have come back from that with great remarks on what a great program it is, the people that they've met there, the relationships that they've built. And we also identified and are implementing CII best practices company-wide. The process improvements we have put in place over the last 2 years, a Matrix University. Again, since it's all about our people, we need to have the best people. And so the CII content are great fillers in our learning management system to make our people better. And in September, we're going to be holding our first CII Best Practice Symposium at our office in Tulsa. So in summary, it takes commitment from the top to support and drive CII values into your organization. And an organization has to be open to change. But the only way you can drive change in the organization is the leadership teams have to believe in it. And that's why we're here. So there's a lot of tools and resources out there. I'm sure you're able to see today, not only in the presentations that you've attended, but also in the knowledge management system. There's a lot there. Don't get overwhelmed with it. Pick off the low-hanging fruit. Find the ones that are going to have immediate impact in your organization and go and execute it. And most of all, get involved. Get your people involved. And if your executives and leaders aren't involved in your organizations, get them involved. Invite them to come. And have them come and see what this organization can do. Thank you.